The story begins on a dark night where a group of occultists were performing a ritual near a highway. Through this ritual, they wanted to summon the devil to Earth, who was actually the Prince of Hell. The ritual was just about to be completed when a group of bikers arrived. The group's leader, Roach, shot an arrow at the head occultist, causing him to fall directly into the fire. The bikers then began to attack the others. After finishing them all off, as the bikers were celebrating their victory, one man tried to attack Roach. However, being injured, he fell from his bike. Seeing this, Roach shot an arrow at him too, which hit his motorcycle's fuel tank directly. Afterward, Roach and all his companions left. But they had no idea that some dark forces had resurrected the occultist, who was now completely transformed. After getting back on his feet, the occultist first looked at the corpses of his companions. Then, he went to the motorcycle with the arrow in its fuel tank. He opened the tank cap and poured all of his blood into it. Following this, his human body fell to the ground, and the devil's powers had now entered the motorcycle. The next day, a delivery boy named Naughty went to a shop to buy a second-hand bike. The shopkeeper asked for $500 for the bike, but Naughty, noticing the hole in the tank, decided to make the deal for $100. He promised to pick up the bike in the evening and left. He didn't know that this bike was about to wreak havoc in his life. A little later, when he reached his job, he met his girlfriend Kim, who worked with him. Naughty told his girlfriend about buying the bike but lied about the price, saying it was only $60 so she wouldn't get angry. He also promised to meet her in the evening after picking up the bike. That evening, Naughty brought the bike home in his friend Buzzer's van. He then went inside the house to call Kim. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Buzzer stole the bike's fuel cap. A little later, when Naughty and Kim returned, he acted as if nothing had happened. They then took the bike to the garage, where Naughty tried very hard to start it but failed. After this, Buzzer himself started to fix the bike, but during the process, he accidentally injured his hand, and some blood fell on the bike's engine. The next day, Kim and Naughty left the bike in the garage and went to work. But before leaving, they noticed the bike's fuel cap, which had mysteriously returned to its place. A little later, Kim received a call from the police, who told her that something terrible had happened to Buzzer at his house the previous night. Hearing this news, Naughty immediately rushed to his house, where Buzzer's neighbors told him that an unknown man had broken into his house, murdered him, and fled. Naughty was then taken inside the house, which was covered in blood and tire tracks. Investigating Officer Cleaver also showed Naughty his friend's body, which was decapitated. After asking Naughty a few questions, Cleaver allowed him to go home. Now Naughty could get away from both the blood-filled room and Officer Cleaver's garlic-smelling breath. After returning home, Naughty once again started working on his bike. After hours of effort, he also replaced the fuel tank. Meanwhile, Kim was still struggling to get over the news of Buzzer's death, but Naughty didn't seem particularly affected by it and went to get his helmet from the house. While Kim was waiting for Naughty and admiring the bike in the garage, she didn't know that the bike was also watching her at that moment. A little later, when Naughty returned with his helmet, he was very eager to ride his new bike and immediately took it out on the road. Naughty had just started to enjoy his ride when the same biker group appeared again. The bike recognized them instantly and began to attack the bikers one by one. Seeing all this, Naughty couldn't understand anything. And to make matters worse for him, the bikers shouted that they would definitely get revenge on Naughty. Despite this, Naughty calmed himself down and returned home. But a short while later, Inspector Cleaver knocked on his door as he still had some unanswered questions. After questioning Naughty for a while, he handed him some of Buzzer's belongings to keep safe. But as soon as Naughty looked inside the envelope, he screamed loudly because inside it was nothing other than Buzzer's severed head. But then Naughty suddenly woke up and realized it was all just a dream. The next day, as Naughty and Kim were leaving the house to go to Buzzer's funeral, Naughty suddenly started shouting because he couldn't see his new bike anywhere, which he had parked outside his house. But then Kim's eyes fell on the garage, where the bike was parked peacefully. She told Naughty, "You're crazy. "You parked it here. You forget everything, don't you?" But when Noddy tried to start his bike, it was not willing to come out into the sunlight, forcing them to take another bike. During the funeral, Noddy noticed the same bikers who were harassing people at that time, but fortunately, none of them recognized Noddy. After returning home, Noddy again started fixing his bike, and after a while, it started. But he didn't know that his bike only started because the sun had set by then. He then took Kim on his bike to a bar, where he parked it outside. A little later, when the same biker gang passed by the bar, they immediately recognized the bike. Inside the bar, Noddy was ordering drinks for himself and Kim when suddenly an arrow shot by Roach landed right on the table in front of him. Despite this, Noddy ignored them all and went to play pool, but the bikers were not going to let him go so easily. Roach started to provoke Noddy even more. When that didn't work, one of his companions, Cooper, went and started harassing Kim. When Kim told him to go away, Cooper angrily struck the pool table. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Noddy started beating him, after which Roach and his other companions also jumped into the fight. Noddy and Kim had to work hard to escape from them, and in the struggle, they ended up in another room where many weapons were lying around. Seeing the weapons, Roach began to attack Noddy with a sword, forcing Noddy to pick up a sword as well. In the midst of this, Noddy pushed Roach off a table and told Kim to quickly go outside and start the bike, so they could escape as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Kim, following her boyfriend's instructions, was starting the bike. At the same time, Noddy, to escape the bikers, ran towards the upstairs room. The bikers were not going to give up so easily, so Noddy had to use his sword to stop them. He then pushed them down the stairs and jumped out of the window, but as soon as he got out, an arrow from Roach hit him right in the hand. Still, he somehow managed to get on the back of the bike, where Kim was waiting for him. After leaving, they decided to stop for something to eat. When Noddy went inside to order food, Kim was waiting outside on the bike. She told Noddy to add some extra garlic to the food, but upon hearing the word garlic, the bike suddenly became very angry. The bike took off with Kim on it. Kim tried very hard to stop the bike, but it was no use. The bike took her to a dark alley and threw her off. But just as it was about to attack Kim, it noticed the Jesus cross hanging around her neck. Seeing it, the bike left. But it was still thirsty for blood, so it returned to the bar where all the bikers were still present. Suddenly, Roach heard a noise outside and told Cooper to go and check. When Cooper went outside, he saw his own destroyed bike, which made him very angry. He decided to get on the demonic bike to take revenge on its owner. But after going a short distance, Cooper realized that the bike was moving on its own. When he tried to control it, the bike started attacking him with sharp objects. Cooper screamed in pain, but the bike was not yet satisfied. It threw Cooper onto an iron railing, killing him instantly. When his other companions came out of the bar, the cursed bike started chasing them too. A short while later, it finished off all the bikers one by one. Now only Roach was left. When he looked back, there was no one there except the cursed bike. Seeing this, Roach shot one last arrow at the bike, which went straight into its headlight. But the bike was not going to give up so easily and started attacking Roach with sharp objects as well. There was no chance for Roach to survive. But then, the bike noticed a road sign with a mark resembling a Jesus cross on it. Seeing it, the cursed bike changed its path. Meanwhile, Noddy had reached his home, but he had no idea about his bike or Kim. A little later, he received a phone call from a man who informed him that Kim had been admitted to the hospital. Hearing this news, Noddy immediately left for the hospital. Roach also arrived at the hospital for his treatment, but he didn't know that the police were investigating the bodies of his companions, all of whom were decapitated. Soon, Inspector Cleaver also arrived at the hospital and arrested Roach for questioning. A little later, Noddy also reached the hospital, where he met Kim, who was very scared. Kim tried hard to tell her boyfriend the truth about the bike, but Noddy was not ready to believe it. He thought Kim was just scared and talking nonsense. He explained to her that it was just her imagination. Meanwhile, Inspector Cleaver was also questioning Roach and was not ready to believe that an ordinary bike could have killed so many men all by itself. But it was true that a cursed bike was roaming the entire city at night. When the bike stopped for a while to rest in a no parking zone, a female police officer tried to give it a ticket. But as soon as the policewoman touched the headlight, the bike cut off her hand. After that, the bike calmly went back to its garage. The next morning, before going to work, when Noddy went to the garage to check on his bike, he noticed a human hand stuck in the bike's headlight. When he opened his bike's fuel tank, it was completely full of blood. Seeing all this, Noddy got very scared and immediately ran towards the church. There, the priest's assistant told him that the priest would not arrive before 9 a.m. But Noddy didn't have that much time, so he threatened the assistant and demanded to see the priest as soon as possible. A little later, the assistant took him to the confession room to meet the priest, where he told the priest about his problem. At first, the priest didn't believe his story either, but upon Noddy's repeated pleas, the priest agreed to go with him. However, when they got there, they found no evidence to prove that the bike was cursed, but the bike was still not willing to come into the sunlight. When the priest tried to force it into the light, the bike cut off the priest's finger with its brake. After that, Noddy immediately took the priest to the hospital where Kim was already admitted. Now, they all believed that there was definitely a demonic spirit in the bike. But to fix this, they first needed to know which spirit was in the bike, because according to the priest, a different kind of method had to be used to cast out each type of spirit. To find this out, the priest needed Noddy's help. But before leaving the hospital, they gave Kim a Jesus cross and hung a garland of garlic around her so that the bike could not attack her. After that, they went to the church again, where they collected all the necessary items for the ritual. Now they had to get back to the garage as soon as possible because sunlight was very important for the ritual. But by then, the cursed bike had also found out about their plan, so it broke down their bike on the way. After that, they had no choice but to use the bus, which wasted a lot of their time. By the time they reached the garage, the sun had set. Despite this, the priest began preparations for the ritual. As the priest started chanting the mantras, at first nothing happened to the bike, but a little later it started creating strong winds with its power. When the priest still didn't stop, it pinned him to the wall and started attacking him with various objects. But the priest was still not ready to give up and was continuously chanting the mantras, which caused the bike to weaken after a while. Now, to finish his ritual, the priest threw holy water on the bike. But as soon as the water touched it, sharp objects suddenly came out of the bike, and it tried to attack the priest again. But this time, Noddy came in between with a Jesus cross, which gave them a chance to escape. After getting out of the garage, the priest immediately ran towards the police station while Noddy was trying to stop the bike. But he knew very well that he couldn't stop this bike for long. A little later, he also ran away from there to save his life. On the way, he also stole a policeman's bike because the cursed bike was continuously chasing him. During all this, 2 policemen noticed him and immediately started chasing him. But the cursed bike, avoiding the policeman, was rapidly heading towards the hospital. And unfortunately, this was the same hospital where Kim was admitted. Meanwhile, at the hospital, during cleaning, a nurse threw out all the garlic garlands and also removed the Jesus locket from Kim's neck. A little later, Kim heard the sound of an engine, which scared her a lot. Then, a nurse came through the door with food, which calmed Kim down. But in the next second, the cursed bike broke through the window into her room and directly attacked and killed the nurse. Now, its next target was none other than Kim. Kim immediately got out of bed and picked up the locket. Seeing it, the bike left and went onto the highway, which was not good news for Roach at all because he had just left the police station, and now the bike was chasing him like death. Seeing the bike, Roach tried to run away quickly, but in the process, he collided with a car, causing him to crash through a window and into a coffin. After finishing off Roach, the bike's next target was Noddy. As the bike attacked him, he climbed up a wall to escape. In the attempt to reach Noddy, the bike's tire got stuck. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Noddy pushed the bike into a pond. After that, he thought everything was fine. But a little later, he noticed the bike's headlights, which were still on. Seeing this, he ran towards the road to save his life, where he met Inspector Cleaver, who by then knew the whole story. With him were Kim and the priest, but Noddy was so scared that he ignored all of them and ran straight into a gym. A little later, the bike also reached there. When a man tried to stop it, the bike attacked his hand with a sharp object. Seeing this, Noddy had had enough and started attacking the bike. But during this fight, Noddy also got quite injured. Despite all this, he repeatedly hit the bike's headlight and knocked it unconscious for a moment. Just then, Inspector Cleaver, Kim, and the priest also arrived. Seeing the bike lying on the ground, they thought that perhaps the danger was over. But a few seconds later, the bike started attacking again, and this time its target was Inspector Cleaver. But Cleaver was probably always eating garlic, and as it approached the inspector, Cleaver attacked it with his garlic-filled breath, which made the bike immediately back off. Then it tried to attack Noddy. But just as it was about to finish Noddy, he unknowingly turned on the UV lights in the room. As soon as they turned on, the bike fell to the ground but was still trying to get back up. To thwart its attempt, Inspector Cleaver went near it and started breathing heavily on it. After that, they all used a Jesus cross as well as some chants to destroy the bike. After destroying the bike, Noddy and Kim's life went back to normal. One day, while Noddy was fixing his bike, he accidentally cut his hand. He used a cloth to clean the blood, but Kim said they should go to a doctor, and they left the cloth there. A few drops of blood from the cloth fell onto the fuel tank of the destroyed bike below, which immediately pulled the cloth inside, meaning that the bike was still alive.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.